Hola Carla, ¿cómo estás?
Hi.
Hola,
¿Cómo
Carla.
andas?
Bien, ¿vos?
Todo tranquilo.
Hola, buen día, ¿cómo estás?
Hola, ¿cómo andas? Me quedé mirando para otro lado.
Acá desayunando. Dios mío.
Hola,
Igual,
chicas.
agarré
Hola, ¿cómo
cafecito.
estás, Cine? Ay. ¿Pudiera entregar el essay famoso?
Sí, lo que me
Dios.
costó.
Lo que costó, por
Lo,
Dios.
en mayúscula.
Tremendo. No, con Caro estuvimos retarde, con Caro Pérez, creo que es el apellido. No sé.
Sí.
Estuvimos retarde, pero lo hicimos. La remamos, Dios mío. ¿Cómo la remamos? ¿Te vuelvo a hacer de anfitrión, Andrea? Ah, sí, sos de anfitrión.
Valentina.
Toma. Hola, Mari.
Hola, buen día, ¿todo bien?
Ah, no le anda el micrófono ahí, hijo.
Mari, a ver si te podemos ayudar. Ahí te dice solicitar para reactivar el micrófono. Ah, ¿no te anda?
No le anda, me parece, derecho. Ay, se macana.
Tal vez cuando reactivas el... Ah, no te funciona en la compu.
Estaremos en el link correcto.
Sí,
Estamos
creo
en
que
el
era
link
el
correcto.
que...
Le pregunto a la profe.
Ahí
Ahí
está,
está.
Noemí.
Ahí entró justo. Sofía González.
Andrés, escucha la música ahora.
Ahí la bajó. La apagó.
A mí no me
Me
molesta.
parecía re relajante de fondo.
Hi. Sí.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, good morning.
Hi.
How are you?
Fine.
Great. Well, first, before we start with the cohesion, do you have any doubts as regards the other exercises that I gave you? No, Bartolo, no. I'm having a problem with my pets. They all want to take part in the class.
Ah, baby.
No pasa nada.
Bartolo. Ayer estábamos, profe, en la clase de prácticas, dando nuestra última práctica, y también uno de mis gatitos, que es súper chiquitito, me apareció por acá por el cuello, y yo quieta no podía decir nada, no podía, así que lo bajé como quien no quiere la cosa. Por suerte no estaba dando la clase yo, estaba observando. No. They don't get used to our being all day long at home, and the problem here with my cats is when doors are closed. They don't bear closed doors that well. Okay, guys, any doubts as regards the exercises? The exercises that you had to do on experiential metafunction? Remember the extra exercise that I gave you?
Oh.
Yeah.
And the exercises on theme and rhyme and all that?
Which one?
The ones that you had to do from the book that I told you that the key is at the end.
Yes.
Any doubts there? Maricel?
No?
Because you are the one that always
No. I don't have doubts. No, not today.
Great.
Not today. I have for the last one. The one that you are
Which
going
one?
to explain today. I'm a bit lost, but because I don't remember.
Okay. But
You are going to explain today.
I'm going to explain the parts of cohesion today. You are going to be doing the exercise for Friday, because we're going to have another class on Friday. We're going to be checking, and then you will have to do a TP.
Okay.
Okay.
On cohesion.
On experiential and textual metafunction.
Okay. For this Friday.
No. The TP will be for our next week that we meet, the last week of class, in fact, for us.
Okay.
Because I don't know if you know, but you need to have, we need to have some kind of testing in order to see whether you have, let's say, incorporated all the content that we gave this year. Yes?
Yes. Okay.
So I thought of doing a TP, but the good news is that it's going to be in groups.
Great.
Yes?
Great. So everybody hand in only one and you correct only one for that.
Yes.
For that. Okay.
Great. Especially because of the time that we have, because this will be due for, I will tell you, I'm going to explain the TP.
Groups of 2, 3.
For our last week of class, is the week of the 11th would be.
On the 11th. Okay, let me see.
11th and 13th are the last week of class that we have. And then the other week is kind of roundup of the subject.
Okay. So
Do we have to share it here or send it to you?
No, you send it to me.
Okay.
But start thinking of the groups. Then on Friday, I will tell you. Briefly, I'm going to tell you briefly what it will be. You will have to look for a text.
yes.
And perform the analysis. You will have to send more than one copy. The experiential analysis, that is to say, processes and participants, and adapt the text, because the text shouldn't be longer than 1 page. So the idea is that you adapt the text in order to incorporate all the processes, all the kinds of participants. Yes?
Intervening in the text.
It will be not only recognition, but you will have to produce. And there is where I see whether you have really incorporated it or not. Okay?
Mariana
So
says,
any
Mariana
text
has a question.
and adapt it.
Okay. Any text, Mariana is asking a question in the chat.
Sorry?
Yes.
What?
Mariana is asking what kind of text.
Any
Her
kind
microphone
of
is...
text. That's up to you.
Okay.
You can maybe a newspaper article from a magazine, a text from a magazine, no longer than 1 page. Yes? And
so maybe we need to add more information to that text in order to have all these processes, participants. Okay.
all the part of, for example, the special structures, for example, when you have today I'm not bright. The special structures when you have initiator and all that.
Yes.
Well, you can add sentences, but the idea is that the text remains coherent. Okay?
Yes.
So sometimes it is better to change the structure of a sentence in order to fit the process that you need to incorporate.
Yes. It won't be
Yeah.
the same like you do. I promise.
It's the same, yes.
No,
that
it's
I
not
do.
the same because you know how to do it. You know how to change the text, how to adapt it. You know.
But that involves writing too.
Okay, we will have to pay special attention to that.
Yes. That's why I want you to do in groups.
What's
Yes.
a challenge?
Sorry, what a challenge?
Yes.
Imitating you, Noemí.
Well, someday I will disappear and you will have to go on with this. Someone has to go on with this theory. Please.
No, don't disappear.
How to explain.
I will disappear someday. But what I will give you is the chance of choosing 2 different texts, because you will do the same with cohesion. And theme and thematic theme, let's say, no?
So experiential, metafunction, and cohesion.
No, sorry, experiential metafunction on the one hand and textual metafunction on the other. Textual metafunction includes theme, the identification of theme, and all the part of cohesion. There, if you want, you can have 2 different texts. Yes?
Okay.
Because if we have to adapt it too in order to incorporate all the kinds of ellipses, all the kinds of substitution, all the kinds of references.
So
but you will learn a lot.
Yes. The problem is with I'm thinking that you taught us how to make a lot of copies in order to analyze different topics, but it will be a mess in one text.
No.
Maybe several copies or not.
Yeah, different copies. But for
Yes.
example, for processes, what you
Yes.
can do is use highlighting for processes in different
Yes.
colors or underline in different colors so that you
Yes.
don't have to write. Yes.
Okay, different
And you
colors.
write the key, I mean the keyword at the end. Red would be
With a key.
material, green, mental cognition.
Yes. Yes. Key at the end. Okay.
And in the case of reference, I mean, in the case of the textual metafunction, one
That would be a mess.
one copy with theme, underlining theme only,
Only theme. Okay.
and another copy for cohesion.
Okay.
What you can do if you think that you cannot manage on the computer, what you can do for the part of cohesion is do it on a sheet of paper, very clear. You take a picture and you send the picture to me, the
Or
photo,
we scan it. Or we scan it.
or you scan it.
Much
Okay.
better. Yes.
Because
So 3
probably for
copies.
cohesion, if you're not used to working on the computer, it will be hard.
Because of the arrows.
Yes. So you can do it on a sheet of paper, scan it. If you don't have scanner, take a picture and you send me the picture.
No, but there is an app in the cell
There is
phone.
an app
Come
for the
scan.
cell phone.
Come
Yes,
scanner.
you're right.
Come
Yes.
scan, yes.
Yes.
So start getting organized
many
as
people
regards the groups.
How many per group?
No more than 4.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, if there is one that is there, but ideally 4 or 5,
Okay.
not 2.
No.
Yes, because we have different views.
Because I want the sharing, and you are going to learn a lot in the production.
Yes.
Yes?
So the deadline, sorry, you said the 11th of November?
Yes.
Okay.
Because I need time to correct them and
Yes,
give you
yes,
feedback for the last week in
Yes.
which we close, let's say, the subject. Okay? So you will have to, I mean, have meetings when Andrea will provide meetings in the groups.
Yes.
Yes?
I have some,
The hardest part will be the rewriting.
Yes.
But one tip, what you can do is, for example, you take a text and, no, because then you make a change and another is going to make a change. Okay.
Because we have to change twice the text.
For the part of theme, no. Because what you need is to add the special themes, thematic equative, marked thematic equative, predicated theme. That is not so difficult. And Andrea told me that I had to explain something about theme. And I don't know, I don't remember.
About proposed attributives.
Proposed attributives.
Yes.
Haven't I explained that?
No, you told us that it was going to be for this class.
Okay. Well, but remind me after I finish with the part of cohesion.
Okay.
So on Friday we can, I can, if you want, write the TP. Yes, the instructions for the TP. Yes.
You can provide an example also.
No.
For Friday.
No. Because the example I can provide is not going to be useful because you're going to be coping what I wrote. And the idea is that you produce. For example, if you have, Bartolo,
Teacher, can we use for example, a president discourse, which would be very difficult.
And
then you're not going to have many resources in a, in a
Yeah.
speech by a
I don't know how to
politician.
do it. I don't know how to do it.
I think that the best you can do is try to find some kind of narrative for the part of processes.
Yes. Maybe from a short story.
Maybe a fragment from a short story, maybe some piece of news from a newspaper.
Mhm.
Some newspaper article in which they, I don't know, tell about a certain crime, suppose.
Mhm.
Yes, because there you will have, because if you take some descriptive text, you're going to have a lot of relational, and but you're not going to have a chance of including a behavioral. It's going to be very difficult. But for the part of processes, I advise that you find some piece of news in which there is some kind of retelling of something. Yes, because in a newspaper article, you also have the verbal processes. So and so said, police officer said, or if you don't have, you can add that. Yes.
Mhm.
For the other, it can be any, I mean, for the textual metafunction, it can be any kind of text. What you, I mean, you will have to read, I mean, select some texts and then see the one that requires less modification. But
Yes.
do not think that you're going to find everything in a text. Yes, you will have to adapt it.
Yeah.
But the idea of adapting is the idea, I mean, when you adapt, you incorporate because you are producing, not just recognizing. Yes? Well, you know that from methodology, from didactics. When you produce, I mean, when students produce, they learn. Even though you may make mistakes in the production.
Mhm.
But as you have produced, then if I point out the mistakes, you will incorporate, yes, it better. Okay? It's a challenge, but it's the, and I didn't incorporate the interpersonal metafunction. I was really good. Well, put it, as Carmen would say. Okay. Yes. Great.
Teacher,
Well, yes.
María, ay, se me fue el nombre. Estela Cordido told me that today she has her last teaching practice lesson. So from now on, she will be able to attend your lessons. She asked me to tell you.
Ah, okay. Okay, but she has, I mean, she can watch the classes, no?
Yes, of course.
Right, great. Well, okay, let's start with cohesion. Let's go, I'm going to be using the notes so that I follow the same line, yes? And I will be explaining. You're going to see my belly, okay? Because I have the other computer here. Now, as regards reference, in reference, we have different kinds of references. Endophoric, that is to say, that is the reference that we have inside the text. Exophoric, the reference that is outside the text. Homophoric, that is another category. And comparative, that is another category. Yes? Now, In the case of endophoric, that is to say, the references that we have inside the text, we have anaphoric, cataphoric, or esphoric. Now, before getting into details in these categories, let's see what are the words that indicate reference. In general, what we do when we indicate reference in a text is use certain elements that we have, certain grammatical elements, because they are not lexical, certain grammatical elements that we have in the text. Sorry, I have to close something here. Well, there are certain grammatical elements. Oh, sorry. We have certain grammatical elements that we use in order to avoid repetition, yes, and in order to link the text. For example, if we are speaking about, I don't know, a certain person, yes, in a text, if we say, for example, Henry, it is not necessary to repeat that name every time that we need to refer to him. But we can replace it by the pronoun he, okay? And if we know that the person is a young boy, we can also use the young boy, okay? They with the definite article because the person has been already identified, yes? Now, but what happens? It is very important to know that references are lost when we change paragraphs, okay? So if we are speaking about Henry in one paragraph, then when you are in the same paragraph, you can use the he. But when you start another paragraph, you have to repeat. Yes? The idea of the cohesive elements is that they help the reader go through the text, yes, and understand what is being spoken about. Yes? What happens? Again, with the example of Henry. If we have Henry, we start the paragraph speaking about Henry. Then we incorporate Paul. All the references of he are going to be to Paul, not to Henry. Okay? And if you want, for example, to say Henry and Paul, you cannot start saying they. First, you have to say Henry and Paul. Is it clear?
Yes.
When we have a pronoun, what is it that we readers do? Immediately identify that pronoun with the nearest element that was mentioned. Okay? Doesn't it happen to, well, it happens to me when I correct, but it may happen to you because sometimes writers are not so good writers. Some writers are not so good writers. And sometimes you are reading a text and there's a point in which you say, who is he speaking about? Doesn't it happen to you?
Yes. Yes.
And you have to start going back through the text to see where you can retrieve that element. Doesn't it happen? Sometimes it happens in newspaper articles, or it happens a lot, for example, when you are correcting students' texts. Yes? In the case of narratives, sometimes they use the definite article to refer to something that has never been mentioned before. And so you say, and what is this? Okay? Yes? Is it clear?
Yes. But
So,
isn't that, sorry.
Yes.
Isn't that a kind of reference when you start mentioning he, and then you mention the person?
Yes, okay, but that is another resource. Then I'm going to explain it.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
It can be, but it is for the sake of suspense. No, but don't.
Okay.
And you do it as a resource for a special purpose, but be careful with the kind of text in which you use it.
Okay.
Peter, before you continue, when
Yes.
you are talking about outside the text and inside the text, could it be related to, for example, a main text and the title or something like that to be outside? Or
The
that
title is inside the text.
inside? Ah, okay. Maybe with the story? Is it with the story?
No, exophoric reference is generally found in dialogues, not very much in written discourse. When they say there, here,
Ah, okay.
you may have some exophoric reference in a text, but it is not so common.
Okay. So we
Yes?
should include in a dialogue in order to show that that resource or not.
Could
in
be.
part of our text. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, yeah.
I am thinking about the audience. Could that be possible? Exophoric reference or not?
Exophoric reference in a text would be I and you. I is the writer, but be careful. If you have a text in which you have the name of the, for example, you may have The Good Neighbor by John, I don't know. There the I is that John. So it is endophoric. The you is always exophoric because it is the reader, the audience. And the audience is outside the text.
Mm-hmm.
And the I, well, Halliday considers I and you as exophoric reference, with the exception of those cases in which you have the name of the writer in the text. When you have by John Smith, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Or suppose that you have I, John Smith.
And what about if you say I am?
But some authors do not agree with this and say that the I, even though you have the name of the writer in the text, you have the author, but not the voice, and the I can be the voice. Have you seen the voice in literature? I mean, when someone writes a poem, the poem that he writes, the poem has a writer, yes?
Yes.
But the poem also has a voice. Someone who says something, but does not necessarily reflect the ideas of the writer. Is the voice that they choose to incorporate. Haven't you seen voice in poetry?
No, I'm not. I don't remember, no.
The ones that are attending with Carla this year. No? Well, I'm going to ask Carla to explain that. Well, because that is typical of literature. I mean, that is something that you see in literature. But, well, doesn't matter. I go on with the generalities about the elements that we can use in order to indicate reference. We said personal pronouns, subjective or objective. So the he and the him. Possessive pronouns, mine, yours. Possessive adjectives or possessive determiners, I don't know how you know them. For example, their, her, his. Demonstratives, this, that, these, those. The definite article. Those are the most common, yes? Definite, not indefinite, because when you say a book, it's any, it is not identified, so it doesn't indicate any kind of reference. And then the deictics. The deictics are here, there, now, and then, according to the pragmatic theory. Also the personal deictic is indicated in a text. But
in that case, they would be
yes.
exophonic. If they appear, they would be
No.
exophonic. Well, not always.
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. Because, for example, I will explain here what, which determiners indicate so and so, and it is below.
Yes.
Depends. It can be, but not necessarily. Yes. And the now and the then are, for example, in the case of a dialogue, it can be exophoric, but in the case of the text, not necessarily, because the text has got a time, can be indicated in the text or not. But those are subtleties, yes? I won't get into those details because it may be confusing, yes? Endophoric reference, it says here, is inside the text. And it can be reference backwards. That is to say, anaphoric reference. When you have, John is my cousin. He reference to John, okay? There we say that it is anaphoric reference. Yes? I always say Anna and Kata. Anna. Cataphoric reference is when the reference is forward. Yes? This is not so common in a text, but it is a device that writers use in order to create suspense. For example, you may have well, in the text I gave you, well, the text I gave you, someone asked me for an example. The text I gave you to analyze for Friday is a text that is adapted for Cohesion. So there you have an example. I don't remember who asked me for an example. What happens? Sometimes writers use a certain resource in order to create suspense. And I always mention the example of an advertisement that caught my attention, that it was an advertisement for Mother's Day, and it said, she prepared you breakfast, she, I don't know, she comforted you when you were ill, she took care of your needs, and then your mother deserves a good present or something like that. Yes? So she, and then it is identified in your mother.
Yes.
That is cataphoric reference. It is very much used in advertisements. When they say, for example, they mention the product at the end of the ad. It is
Yes.
meant, and usually it is done to create suspense. but they show an advertisement and say, what is it being advertised? Yes, they
Yes.
speak about the product, but you don't know what the product is. That is cataphoric reference. Again, this is used as a resource to create suspense, and it is used as a resource that is very useful for writers in the case of a narrative, for example. Yes, it can be. But a cataphoric reference must be used for a clear purpose. Okay? You cannot use it sparingly, okay? It must be for a purpose. I mean, or with a purpose in mind, okay? Yes?
It's here in the text.
Clear?
I found it. In Faithful Attraction.
Okay.
Isn't it?
Faithful Attraction.
Please tell me so.
I don't have the text here, no, but there is another cataphoric.
Yes, at the very beginning.
Yes.
No.
Okay, but Friday. That is for
Yes.
Friday.
I could identify one.
Don't
Yes.
spoil it. Don't be spoiler.
Because I was lost.
Okay. Now, so we have anaphoric, cataphoric. Okay?
Yes.
Pointing forward, pointing back. I suppose that you remember because that is something that appears in co-build. Okay, silence. Okay, doesn't matter.
Our friend. He's sleeping.
Another kind of endophoric reference, that is to say, reference Bible, everything is there. No, everything no. The part of pragmatics is not incorporated there. What? Anaphoric, cataphoric. And then we have another kind of endophoric reference that is S-phoric. What is this S-phoric reference? This S-phoric reference is a reference in which we use the definite article plus noun plus some kind of post-modifying structure. For example, a relative clause, yes, a defining relative clause, or a prepositional phrase. For example, if I say, the girl in the blue dress is a prepositional phrase. So the article the is considered as S-phoric reference. S-phoric because there is post-modification. So how is it that we identify that? It is not anaphoric reference. Oh, how beautiful. Look at the baby.
Oh, the baby.
Okay.
I can.
Yes.
Aww. Look
Aw.
at the baby. So sweet.
Is it yours?
You're all distracted.
I didn't know you were mommy.
Caro, I didn't know that you had a baby. Are you a mommy, Caro?
She's so young.
Yes,
Yes.
my microphone was mute. I was speaking alone.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I didn't know that you had a baby.
Yeah.
I didn't see you pregnant.
Tatiana. She's 8 months.
So cute.
My God.
You're so
Well, going on with references.
Sorry.
Congratulations. Okay, it's okay. So, when we have the definite article, in general, the definite article identifies anaphoric reference. Henry, then you say the boy, yes? But when we have post-modification, I mean a post-modifying structure after the noun, we call it S-phoric reference.
Sorry, teacher,
Yes?
I couldn't catch you. The last
Again,
one.
that post-modifying structure can
Se te está
be
cortando.
a prepositional phrase
Miss,
or
Corta, profe.
does it
Se corta. Quizás si apagas un minuto la
Okay.
cámara, te vuelva la...
again? Okay, I'm going to turn off the video. There. Okay, again,
Ahora sí.
when we have they are better,
Yes.
yes, yes,
is it better?
yes,
Okay.
yes.
Now, when we have the definite article,
Yes.
the definite article in general indicates that there is some kind of reference, because the definite article is an indicator of reference. That reference in general is anaphoric. If you say, John was in the park yesterday, the boy, we understand that that boy is John because of the definite article. Yes? But
Mhm.
in certain other cases, that definite article is I mean, the noun that is preceded by that definite article is identified by some post-modifying structure. That post-modifying structure, remember, it can be a prepositional phrase or a defining relative clause. Yes? The boy who lives next door, that the of the boy is a S-phoric reference because the boy is identified in a post-modifying structure, okay? By the
Yes.
defining relative clause, yes?
Mhm.
Or the girl in the red dress, that the is S-phoric reference, okay? Yes? So far so good?
So, in that case, it is because they are not part of the story, but we are talking about someone who is outside the text? Or not?
No, it is inside the text because it is identified in the text.
And, okay, S-phoric, okay, no,
The definite article is no indication
yes,
of
yes,
exophoric reference.
yes,
It is endophoric.
S-phoric, yes, I confused.
Okay, good. Now, what you may need to revise is relative clauses. Yes, you have there in the text the reduced relative clauses. Do you remember, with infinitive or ing, with non-finite verbs? The book to read. Yes, the woman wearing a blue dress. Those are reduced relative clauses. We consider that, I mean, that the book to read, that the is S-phoric reference because the identification is by means of the reduced relative clause with infinitive. Yes? Well, if you have doubts about that, revise the theory of reduced relative clauses from second year. Okay? So far, so good.
Yes,
Yes,
Can I go on?
yes,
yes.
Good. Then we have exophoric reference. It says here that reference points outside the text. Yes? And what I told you before, it is mainly used in dialogues when there is a transcription of a dialogue. Yes? But be careful because in a dialogue, you may have, for example, in a play or in a dialogue, you may have, this is a conversation in a cafe. So if in the text they say here, sorry, if in the text they say here, that here is in the cafe, so it is endophoric reference. Okay? Careful with that. You need to have a look at whatever is included in the text. If they say, again, this conversation took place in a cafe on October the 11th, 2020, if they say now, it is, the reference is inside the text, okay? Because that explanation is inside the text. Do you get it? Hello?
Yes, but
Yes.
I don't get when it is outside the text. I still don't get it.
For example, if in a text you don't have any indication as regards when it took place, where it took place, the here, there, now, then is outside the text because there is no reference in the text. But if you have all the explanation,
This is
it is
very
inside the text because the explanation is part of the text. Sometimes in place you have in the different stages of you have in the bedroom, suppose. There is an indication of place.
yes.
So if you have here, it is understood that it is in the bedroom because it is in the explained in the text. Yes, Maricel? No.
No.
Suppose you are talking about a place in the house, you are describing the place and you are mentioning all the description of the bedroom, for example. And
yes, I got that part.
But they are in the garden. In that case, it would be that there would be the
They're in the garden.
exphoric.
Esphoric.
Ah, okay.
Good. Well, the pronouns, remember, I, you. You is always exophoric. In a kind of, no, in a dialogue, it is not necessarily exophoric. In a dialogue, if you have a conversation between Mark and Tony, and they say, I or you have Mark and Tony in the text, so it is endophoric.
Because you are addressing.
Yes, because they are mentioned in the text. They are identified in the text. So there it is anaphoric, okay? But if in an essay, for example, something that I tell you to avoid, but that you can use in the conclusion.
In the conclusion.
When you say, you can do something about it, yes?
Addressing to the audience, yes.
There it is exophoric.
Ah, great.
Okay?
Yes.
Whatever you cannot retrieve in the text as regards I, you, me, your, if you cannot retrieve it in the text, it is exophoric. Yes?
And I have a question. And when, for example, the author says, I am going to tell you a story about blim, 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 blim. That I could have been exophoric.
How can
no,
you
exophoric? No.
No. You is exophoric.
I am going to tell you that you is exophoric.
No, but
the I depends on whether you have the name of the writer there in the text.
If you don't have it?
It is exophoric.
Ah, great.
Because that I, you don't know who that I is. You cannot retrieve it in the text.
That's it.
I'm moving my hands. I'm pointing as if you were seeing me. Sorry. But if I don't, my niece says, if you don't move your hands, you cannot speak. That is the result of teaching English, of teaching another language.
You can turn it on.
Body language. Body language.
Turn it on, and if you get cut, you turn it off again.
No, it's okay. You need to listen to me, no? Well, let's see. Let's try.
Because if we are visual, it's perfect you to make us those signals. Anaphoric, categoric.
When you say,
I need to move my hands.
yes, you make.
My window faces the street. If some neighbor is looking at me, they are going to think that I am crazy. Okay. Well, there you have the explanation.
Yes.
The pronouns. This is because I refers to the writer and you to the reader of the text. However, when there is a dialogue in the text, the I and you refer to the people. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And again, when you have the name of the writer is there present. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Again, we have the case of the voice, but if you haven't seen that in literature, I'm going to speak with Carla if she can teach you that, because it is well taught in poetry. It is. Have you seen poetry this year?
We have seen some poems.
Yes. Haven't you seen voice? Seen voice? The voice? Oh. My connection is unstable, it says here. Tell me if it gets cut.
Okay.
Well, I'm going to speak with Carla. Okay, so far so good. Can I go on?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Now, next point, homophoric reference. Homophoric reference, it is sometimes endophoric and sometimes exophoric, it says here. That's why we classify it as another item, not inside either of the two. And refers to the only one in the world or the only one in the context. In general, we say that when we say the moon, the sun, the church, we are referring to, I mean, there is no need of any other kind of reference because we know what we are speaking about. Yes? In our case, that we have only one moon, there is no need to identify which moon we are speaking about. If we lived in Jupiter, for example, we will need to identify which moon, for example. Yes?
Mm-hmm.
Now, but be careful here. Yes.
Teacher, suppose we are talking about, we are giving directions and we are talking about a neighborhood. Yes? So
I'm going to explain that now. Wait a second.
Okay.
Be careful, because taking into account the audience and the context, the register, sometimes that, for example, the church, not referring to the church, the institution, yes, but the church in your neighborhood, if in the context it is clear, yes, it is homophoric, because it is the only one that is, let's say, is a clear reference for the whole of the audience, okay? For example, if you tell your friend, today I have to go to the school, or I have to go to the supermarket. The supermarket, when you say the supermarket, not the cooperativa, yes, the supermarket, when you say that, you know that the other person will understand what you mean. So there, it is homophoric reference, okay?
Yes.
one important point to mention as regards reference. Proper nouns are no indication of reference. Okay?
Mhm.
Proper nouns are identified in themselves. So when you have the Houses of Parliament, you don't say that they is any kind of reference. Okay? It's a proper noun. But you can say the Houses of Parliament are located there. You can see there indicates reference to the Houses of Parliament, okay? But in a proper name, you don't indicate reference, okay? When you say the crown, well, there we have metonymy, but it's another thing. But no, that is for fourth year, no. But proper, I mean, when they are in capital letter, proper names, no reference. But then you can use reference to refer back to those proper names, okay? Clear? Yes? Good. So when you say, for example, call the police. I mean, you can refer to that as the police as an institution, or it is clear, yes, what you are speaking about in your context. Okay?
Se te cortó.
So we say homophobic.
Estoy en clase de inglés.
Okay, there. Did you get the part? Well, there I put the example of the institute. For example, today I don't have to go to the institute. I mean, if you, in the context, it is clear that the institute refers to Avanza, you don't need to say to Avanza. To the institute, it is clear in the context, okay?
So in that case, it is endophoric.
Homophoric.
Homophoric.
But homophoric.
It's the only one in the
within-
context. You're going to notice that in the case of homophoric reference, if you go back in the text, you
Yes.
don't find that word mentioned before.
Okay.
Because there is no need.
But
suppose in a dialogue, you say, today I don't have to go to the institute. And a friend of yours may say, which institute?
yes, so what I understand that.
It's also connected to pragmatics, no? It's that
Here-
you choose.
Here it says that it could be endophoric or exophoric.
I didn't catch.
My question, can you listen to me?
Yeah, that's why. No, we don't classify it as endophoric or exophoric. It is homophoric. No other classification.
Okay.
Look at the chart I made at the beginning. Look at the chart at the beginning. It is separate.
Yes.
Esphoric, esphoric, no. You have, the categories are endophoric, that can be anaphoric, cataphoric, or esphoric. Then exophoric, homophoric, and comparative. Yes? Comparative. Sorry, let me see who is being so. Just a sec. Okay. Now, comparative reference. Comparative reference includes all comparative and superlative forms, but also words that indicate a certain kind of comparison. For example, more, other, another, the same, much, different. Because when we say different, even though we don't say different from, there is an idea, a clear idea of a comparison with something else in the context, okay? Similar, differently, similarly, and all ordinal numbers. Okay? Clear? You will have to incorporate all these words, but if you are analyzing, try to work with these notes until you incorporate them. Okay? Good. Now, bridging. What is bridging? Bridging is one special kind of reference. And what is it that, when is it that we use, writers use this bridging when they presuppose that the reader will understand, even though there is no clear previous reference to what they are speaking about. Wow. Could you follow me? Okay. Silence.
I have a question here after you.
Wait. Let me explain, and then you have questions, and then you ask questions. Now, if you are writing a text about, let's say, well, we have there a hospital, yes? When you speak about the doctor told me you don't need, even though you haven't mentioned the doctor before, you can use the definite article because it will be understood from the context that it is the doctor that attended to your needs. For example, you say, last weekend, I didn't feel well, so I went to the hospital. The doctor told me that I had the flu. That the doctor, you use the definite article. You know that you cannot use the definite article in a text unless the person or thing has been mentioned before, no? Mm-hmm. So what happens there? It's the first time that you mention that person in the text, but there is no need to make any clear, any other reference to that, because it is clear that if you felt unwell and you went to the hospital, you went you went there because you wanted to be attended to by a doctor. Mm-hmm. So it is understood that it is the doctor that was in there in the hospital. Do you get it?
Yes.
Yes? Now, Andrea, yes, ask me.
My question is, I understood this, but is it also an anaphoric reference or just bridging?
It is bridging. It cannot be anaphoric because if you go back through the text,
yes, you
won't find any mentioning of the doctor before.
Ah, okay. That was my question.
Different would be, I'm going to give you a different case. For example, last weekend I didn't feel well, so I went to the hospital. You can say the doctor that saw me, there you have a relative pronoun, so it is a sporic reference, or a doctor, unidentified, but you're not going to say a doctor, because a doctor will be any. And that would be a serious mistake for the reader. The reader won't understand why a doctor. How many doctors saw you? Do you get it?
Yes.
Yes?
Yeah.
The same as when you say, my car, I had a flat tire. So I call the insurance company and they send me the mechanic. The mechanic is understood that it is the mechanic of the insurance company. No? Yes? Clear?
Yes.
There, what we do is circle the definite article and write bridging. Bridging indicates that it is understood by the context and no need to specify, yes, no need to specify who that mechanic, that doctor is. Yes? So far, so good?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Then ellipsis. It says ellipsis occurs, well, you know that when a word is omitted in order not to repeat it. The typical case is when you say, John got up early and went to the kitchen to prepare breakfast. It would be, and he went to the kitchen, no? Okay? That is the typical case of ellipsis.
Yes.
That is called nominal ellipsis. Yes? Nominal ellipsis is when we omit a noun or a pronoun, no? You have examples there. For example, he had one house in London and another in York. Another house, no? She attended 2 conferences. Well, the first conference and the second conference, no? Okay?
Yes.
Good. Then we have verbal ellipses. This is not so common in narrative texts, but it may appear. For example, when we omit the verb, he takes work home when he needs to. Take work home, okay? She worked as hard as she possibly could work, no?
Yeah.
Who came with you? Mariah. Came with me, okay? Again, in order to identify verbal ellipses, it must be clear from the text nearby what is omitted. Yes? And very important, we call verbal ellipses not only when the verb is omitted, but also when the verb and the predicator, the predicate, sorry, the object of the verb. Yes? For example, in the first case, he takes work home when he needs to take work home. Okay? We call it verbal ellipsis. Be careful not to confuse it with clausal ellipsis, because in order to be able to identify something as clausal ellipsis, both subject and predicate must be omitted. Okay? Yes? Let's see the case here of clausal ellipsis. How many apples would you like? 3 red apples. I would like 3. Yes? So subject and predicate are omitted. Okay? We are sure we will find her. Only God knows where we will find her. Okay? Yes? Would you like anything to drink or eat? No. This is typical of speech. Yes? It is not very common, but it may appear in certain texts. And that is something that you can use when you're writing essays, yes? Well, you will find, in the exercise that I included, the one that you are expected to be doing for Friday, you have all kinds of ellipses, yes? So And then you will have to practice and incorporating them. So it will be good, a good challenge, as you said. Okay? So far, so good.
Yes.
The doubts will appear with the exercises, okay? So when you start analyzing the text, that I advise you to print probably more than one copy so that you can either, because reference, you will have a lot of reference. So in one copy and then ellipsis, substitution, and all the others in another copy. Yes, probably better. If not, the text will be a mess. Yes? Okay.
Teacher, before you continue, after that. My question is after that.
Okay. Substitution. Substitution is when we lift one element, but we replace it by another word. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So, before this, I don't know if I included, sorry. Before we see substitution, I remember something that I didn't explain about anticipatory it, and I don't know if it is in the text.
No.
Let's go back to reference for a little while, sorry. Something important that I forgot. In the case of reference, with it, when it is anticipatory it, we speak of cataphoric reference. I didn't include it in the notes, I think. So you will have to include it. It is my cousin who made a mess of it all. Yes, that it is cataphoric reference to my cousin because it is an anticipatory it. Yes?
Yes.
Teacher, I don't understand why cataphoric. If it is because you are anticipating what you are going to say afterwards.
It refers forward.
Okay.
Because it anticipates. It is my cousin who made a mess. The reference to that it is my cousin.
Okay, it is my cousin. Okay, perfect.
Yes? And be careful also with it when it is empty it. It is 2 o'clock. No reference. It is Monday. That it is empty. Okay? Some authors say that it could be cataphoric, but empty it is no reference because it is empty. Yes?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
So it can be anaphoric. For example, the cat is on the table. It is that it refers to the cat, or the car is parked outside the house. It is. Yes. Okay.
Yes.
We have the empty it. That empty it is no reference. And we have the it as anticipatory it, that is cataphoric reference, because it anticipates. We saw anticipatory it. Remember when we did the analysis of interpersonal metafunction?
Yes.
If you have doubts, revise that. In the interpersonal metafunction, we analyze anticipatory it. Now I don't know which page, but look for it because we work with. Remember that when we performed the analysis of the interpersonal metafunction, we had it as subject and what it anticipated as subject.
Yes.
Yes? Okay. If you have doubts, revise that. Sorry. Now, let's go to substitution. Substitution is easy. In the case of substitution, we can have nominal, verbal, or clausal. This is very easy because there are certain words that indicate substitution. Those words and only those words. Nominal substitution, the word one or ones. I have two books. The blue one is about grammar. The red one is about phonetics. That one is substitutes for the word book. Yes? And here, be careful, because sometimes you have the word one to refer to the number. Careful. When one refers to the number, that is no substitution, okay? I have one book on the table.
Yes.
I was going to say in the fridge, could be. Everything is possible. Yeah. If you say, I have one book on the table, that one refers to the number one, a single one, yes? And so that is not substitution. It doesn't substitute for any, yes? Okay? Verbal substitution. Do, does, did. For example, I have never seen a ghost. If I do, it replaces see, a ghost. Yes? I didn't understand her at the beginning. When I did understand her. Yes? Okay? Good. And clausal substitution. Clausal substitution is,
if I say so do I, is that do
accomplished by the words so. Yes. So do I. Yes, that is closer. I hate chocolate. So do I. That so expresses clausal substitution.
okay.
Yes, and you have examples there. If you do so, I hope not. I haven't either, or neither I have. Yes?
Yes.
Good. Then, conjunction. In conjunction, be careful with conjunction. When we speak of conjunction in cohesion, we refer to discourse markers, not to coordinating or subordinating conjunctions, okay?
Teacher, before you continue, so in substitution,
So, discourse markers are in.
sorry. Se corta, ¿no?
Yes.
My question is, so in substitution.
No, I can hear you.
Sorry. We should say nominal substitution, clausal substitution. That is the way in which, how do we mark them? Or just by saying substitution?
Yeah, you can, in general, that's why I say use a different, a different page,
Okay.
reference text. And what you can do is circle in red substitution. Then I give you there how to mark ellipses with the empty sign.
Yes.
And then you can write in, I mean, you don't need to write nominal, but you can write as a reference, a circle in red is substitution. And so then you write N on top, C or V.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, let's go back to conjunction. So remember, conjunction, when we speak of conjunction, is not coordinating conjunctions. The and can be a conjunction only when it is at the beginning of the sentence. And comma. It is considered as a cohesive element only when it is linking two sentences, not inside a sentence, okay? That's why I say discourse markers, moreover, however, nevertheless, thus, as a result, then, when you have at the beginning of the paragraph first comma, second, at the beginning of a paragraph or at the beginning of a sentence, okay? Yes? Be careful with this. Coordinating conjunctions are not called conjunctions in cohesion. Okay? Yes? Great. We saw conjunctions, remember, in the interpersonal metafunctions, when we analyzed the ones that we didn't classify because it belonged to the textual metafunction. Do you remember?
Yes.
The howevers that we left aside?
Yes.
Good. And now, lexical cohesion. Here, we refer to not grammar words, but lexical elements. That is to say, nouns, verbs, adjectives, and adverbs. Those indicate lexical cohesion. Yes? They are called lexically cohesive elements. And in lexical cohesion, we have different kinds of cohesion. One can be synonymy, another antonymy, repetition, hyponymy, or meronymy. In the case of synonymy, well, you know, words that have got similar meaning. Yes? Can you hear me?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes.
Again, my connection is unstable, it appears. Okay. In the case of synonymy, we speak of, well, synonyms or near synonyms. Yes? When you say, for example, the boy, the lad, the kid. Yes? Antonymy. Antonymy is the opposite, you know.
Yes.
When you have the dark hours, in general, you can look for something that indicates the opposite meaning. Dark, light, black, white, for example. Repetition is very easy. Sorry, as regards synonymy or antonymy, be careful because they must be nearby, at least in the same paragraph in the text. Well, sometimes it can be in another paragraph, but when there is a clear contrast. Yes.
No, se te cortó, Miss.
Then.
Sorry.
Teacher, you
No,
got cut.
we can't hear
Hello?
you.
You got cut. You lost connection.
Okay.
Or you talked about the same paragraph
Okay.
and then we couldn't hear you.
Okay. Then sometimes when there is a clear contrast between paragraphs, sometimes we say that speaking about, I don't know, describing a place during daylight, and then at night in another paragraph, then you say that daylight and night are lexically cohesive elements. Yes? You have to understand the context. Yes?
Ah, es que se te cortó, Miss.
Oh.
Sorry.
I'll go out and come in again.
Okay.
Hola chicas, ¿cómo andan? Una pregunta, recién estaba hablando con Pau porque yo entré a mi Zoom para cambiar la contraseña y ponerle Halloween de U 2020 y no me permite poner el 2020, me corta el Halloween de U. O sea que esa contraseña yo no la puedo utilizar. No sé si alguna probó y les pasó lo mismo, porque bueno, si pasa eso, Paula tiene que avisar a todos los papás que la contraseña es otra, porque se ve que Zoom tiene un número limitado de caracteres, o no sé si me pasa a mí o les pasó a todas. Pregunto por las dudas, porque es un tema menor, ¿no?
No tengo ni idea de qué están hablando. ¿De qué? ¿De alguna materia puntual? ¿Quién habló? ¿Mari? ¿Marinés?
No.
Creo que era igual de un audio de...
Perdón, yo estaba
Zoom.
escuchando un audio de mi...
Ah,
Ah, perdón.
Estaba en... Perdón.
Creí
Estaba
que nos estabas
escuchando...
preguntando, Mari.
No, estaba escuchando el audio de mis compañeras que estamos en crisis, perdón.
No problem. Estamos todas, esto es re difícil. Quizás
No,
no
es que estamos organizando Halloween, entonces es un lío. Hoy tenemos Halloween, así que es un lío, por Dios.
Qué lindo.
Estamos todas crazy.
I can We can see you now, teacher.
Ah, okay. Can you hear me better?
Perfect.
Okay. Well, it didn't allow me to get in. Okay. Now, again, in general, when we speak of synonymy, antonymy, we speak of the same paragraph or when it is a clear cohesive device, yes? For example, what I was telling you that you said that it was cut. When we have, for example, if you're describing a place in the daylight, then you may, I mean, you describe all the place. And at night, there is a clear contrast. Daylight and night are antonymous. And all the adjectives that you use in the paragraphs are antonymous. Okay? So, in general, we say in the same paragraph, but not necessarily, okay? Yes? When there is a clear division of things that are being compared in one paragraph and in another, we speak of antonymy or synonymy, okay? Yes? Good. Mm-hmm. Then, how is it that you mark this before we go to hyponymy and meronymy? That is the last. In general, you will see that you have a number of lines. Yes? So you write it on a separate sheet of paper. Daylight, line so and so. Night, line so and so. Yes? And you write them, in the case of lexical cohesion, you write lexical cohesion on top, then synonymy, and you write something, line so and so, in brackets, and some other thing. I mean, the boy, line so and so, the kid, line so and so. I don't know. The girl, the kid, suppose. Okay? Mm-hmm. With a line in brackets, because sometimes you have the same word repeated in another part of the text, but it is not synonymous. Okay? Yes? Yeah. Then you write antonymy, and you do the same. Daylight, line so and so, night, line so and so. Okay? Mm-hmm. Great. The same with, well, repetition. We're not going to mark repetition because repetition is very easy. Yes? If not, if you want, you write day. I mean, then repetition, another category, day, lines, da, 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 da. Okay? Yes?
Yes.
Good. Hyponymy. Hyponymy is when we have elements that belong to the same class. For example, the example that you have there. If in a text you have means of transport, train, bus, tube, we consider means of transport as the superordinate, yeah, top, and then train, bus, and tube with arrows, yes, as hyponymous elements. Okay? If you have, for example, shops. Okay, I'm going to stop video. Oh, well, again, if you have the word or the phrase means of transport in a text, and then you have bus, tube, train, they are bus, tube, train are hyponymous elements because they belong to the same class. And means of transport would be the superordinate. So you write means of transport, and then with arrows, you write bus, train, car. Okay?
Yes.
Can be in a parallel line or horizontal as you like, okay? Sometimes in a text, you don't have the superordinate. That phrase means of transport. You may have bus, train, tube, but you don't have means of transport. So how is it that you mark it? You write means of transport in brackets, and we speak of co-hyponymy. Co with a hyphen in between, yes?
Yes.
We don't have the superordinate. So you write it in brackets and you don't write hyponymy, you write co-hyponymy, okay? The example that you have there, you may have butchers, bakery, supermarket, yes? So you write co-hyponymy, yes? You write in brackets the superordinate, yes? That will be shops, and then butchers, bakery, supermarket, okay?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Now, the last one, and we'll finish with this. Meronymy. In hyponymy, we say it is class or kind of. In meronymy, it is part of. So, for example, if we're speaking of a house, if you have, you are describing a house and you have the word house and you have window, door, walls, we speak of meronymy because windows, door, walls are part of the house. Okay? House would be the superordinate, and then with arrows, you write the parts. Okay? And again, in this case, we have the case of co-meronymy. Sometimes you have the words walls, door, windows, but you don't have the word house. Okay? So again, we speak of co-meronymy. You write house in brackets as the superordinate and then the parts. This is also typical when you have, for example, I don't know, the word head, eyes, nose, mouth, or the word body, leg, arms. Yes? Parts of. The word tree, for example, branches, trunk. But the word tree, we can also speak of hyponymy when we have, I don't know, oak, palm, yes, kinds of trees. The same with cars. Cars can be hyponymy or meronymy. If we speak of the parts of the house, of the car, sorry, it is meronymy. If you speak of sports cars or well, again, be careful with proper names. Proper names are not lexically cohesive elements, okay? Be careful here. Proper names do not indicate any kind of cohesion. So you cannot say that John, Peter, and so are part of a family, okay? But yes, if you have the word cousin, brother, sister, father, mother, okay?
Sorry, one question. If when we have cities, for example, cities in Buenos Aires, or just to say an example, different cities.
Could be. but depending on the you can say sometimes it is, but authors disagree on this, but you can say that, for example, New York, Boston, Miami are part of the United States, but not in kind of.
So that would be
As part
meronymy.
of. As part of meronymy, yeah. Sometimes, depending on the context, because sometimes, depending on the context, sometimes you have, for example, if you have, for example, let's take Argentina. If you take Mar del Plata and Dorrego, suppose.
Yes.
They indicate different kinds of cities. So you can consider, depending on the context, if you see that in the context, they are used as, let's say, examples of the big town and the small town, you can speak of hyponymy, yes? But depending on the context. Okay?
Yes.
Now, let's see, let's go, let me see the exercise. Well, the exercise on cohesion, the one that you have to do for Friday,
yes,
there, as I told you before, print 2 or 3 copies, yes, because with reference, use only 1 copy for reference because you have a lot of references there, yes, and so as not to make a mess. And then you can use another for ellipsis substitution and conjunction. And in the case of lexical cohesion, you don't need to identify in the text because remember that you write it on a separate sheet of paper. Okay? Now, do it for Friday. And well, write down all the doubts that you may have. Okay? Because the doubts will appear when you try to identify the text. And wait a sec, because I need to explain something that you told me that I hadn't explained. Well, I cannot find it. Yes. Okay. I will explain. I don't remember if I explained page 166, interpolations in theme. I think that I explained, but just in case. Interpolations in theme, page 166. What Thompson calls interpolation are the non-defining relative clauses, or if you have a position. Yes? In the case of non-defining relative clauses, even though they are non-defining, they are part of the theme. Okay? So the theme would be whatever is the subject until the verb, okay? And what remained is following page 167, preposed attributives. Preposed attributives is what you saw I hope. As supplementive clauses, remember?
Yes.
Those non-finite clauses without any kind of subordinate conjunction that are called supplementive, that can be identified in different ways because you don't have the subordinating conjunction. Those are called preposed attributives. You have the example there, standing in extensive gardens, comma, the house. What happens with preposed attributives? The supplementive clause and the noun group are part of the theme.
Mm-hmm.
Yes?
Yes.
Also, when you have, for example, remember that supplementive clauses are non-finite clauses. They can be ing, well, infinitive no, because infinitive would be of purpose. Ing or ed. Yes? For example, worried about the economic situation, comma, she. Okay? That would be an ed. And we also include here, because that worried could be taken as an adjective or as the past participle of worry. That's why adjectives are also included here. Yes? As preposed attributive.
Mm-hmm.
What is important here is to the supplementive clause plus the noun group are the theme. And this is important to remember because to distinguish it from preposed theme. Remember when we repeated the subject?
Yes.
People like us, we, yes? In that case, only one is marked as theme. Okay?
And this is marked or unmarked?
Preposed attributive is a kind of marked theme. Because it is not the usual order.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Yes.
Good. Well, guys, time is up.
Oh my goodness. Yes.
Yeah, we have 5 minutes.
Okay.
But well, I suppose that it is enough, no?
Yes. So when we do the TP, we should write the number of the lines.
Yes,
the
please.
Texts.
Follow the same example that I gave you in this exercise.
And faithful attraction, yes.
Yes, and leave, I mean, more than double space. I suppose that it is three spaces. See, I don't remember now how I organized it, but leave room in between in order to be able to write everything.
Yes.
Yes. And well, I suppose that you know how to write, how to add the number of lines.
Yes, yes, yes. Yes, yes.
There, here I am to say you goodbye.
Okay. Thank you, Miss.
Okay, so see you on Friday at 10.
At 10.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
Okay.
Do you need
Okay.
me to open a room for fourth year today?
Yes. Yes, I have a class now at 12 with fourth.
Okay, so
But-
I open it.
But
open it.
isn't it the same?
No, it is another link. Do you remember that we divide the link so as not to?
I gave them the same link.
Wait, I will send it to you by WhatsApp. Do you want?
Okay.
Because if we use the same link on YouTube, the two lessons will be together. So that is why I divide them. So I keep them separately.
Okay.
So I finished this meeting and I start the other one and I send you the link.
Okay, good.
Yeah? Okay,
Good.
well,
Okay.
see you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. See you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.